We are moments away from a rare joint appearance by the President Obama and his Democratic predecessor, President Bill Clinton. The two are here in New York at an event sponsored by the Clinton Global Initiative to discuss the merits and benefits of the Affordable Care Act, a topic which typically gets the current president quite fiery and animated.
We will not negotiate over whether or not America should keep its word and meet its obligations. We're not going to allow anyone to inflict economic pain on millions of our own people just to make an ideological point. And those folks are going to get some health care in this country. We've been waiting 50 years for it.
And joining us now is my colleague and friend and co-host of the Ed Show, Ed Schultz. Good afternoon, Ed. I know you're coming on air slightly earlier than usual. Ted Cruz, right at this moment, Ed, is on the floor railing against affordable health care. Now, he said, I'm using his words, he said he wants to speak for 26 million Texans and for 300 million Americans. Nearly 1 in 4 Texans have no health coverage whatsoever. Why doesn't he speak up for them, Ed?
Well, Mr. Cruz is proving that he simply has no credibility, and what we're about to see is two people with immense credibility, and that's former President Clinton and current President Barack Obama, who is the authority on this bill and can speak to all the lies. It's Ted Cruz who has manufactured negativity. It's Ted Cruz who has scared a lot of Americans and created some confusion. They want us to be confused. They think we're stupid, Martin. They think that we can't go to a website and read options available to uninsured Americans. This is outrageous, and this is a very unique opportunity for the president and Bill Clinton to bring the best out of Barack Obama in a long sit-down conversation that I think is only going to be productive for every consumer.
Ed, for many years you've been arguing that there ought to have been a public option as part of this, but it's proving. Look at the opposition that we already have to this, which does not contain a public option. And yet Republicans like Ted Cruz stand up and say they'll defund the government, they'll defund the Affordable Care Act in order to continue resolution and pay for the budget of the nation. But I have to ask you this. What's their alternative for the 30 million Americans without health care?
Very simple. 2-word culture. The private sector. Private sector. That's what they're all about. That's what they're trying to protect.
The private sector already exists, and these people don't have health care.
It does, but the competition is not there, Martin. There's, I believe, a tremendous amount of collusion in the insurance industry, and that's quite a charge. But look at the rates. Look at what has happened in this country with health care costs over the last 15 years. The Obamacare, this law, Martin, is not about just cost. It's about access, and it is about denial. And when you tell somebody because they're sick they can't get insurance, all of that is going to be wiped away. And Ted Cruz doesn't talk about that. Ted Cruz never talks about, I've got a better plan. I will make sure that Americans can afford health insurance. He never talks about how we're going to make sure that we do something for those out there who are sick and being denied. This is the fallacy, and this is the false presentation of a guy who is trying to hoodwink this country. I tell you what, this is today one of the most important days that President Obama will have since signing the law into law. And it's a law. Yeah. There's a tremendous amount of conversation about, well, is the White House selling it? Well, what do you want them to do? Have 42 votes in the Senate to pass it 42 times to counter what these idiots are doing over on the House side? The fact is that in 1 week from now, we are going to have uninsured Americans who are going to have freedom. They're going to have freedom to go to a website and freedom to see exchanges in every state. Every state in this union will have exchanges. They're either going to be set up by the state or they're going to be set up by the federal government. And this is going to happen. And I think, Martin, it's a low number when we say 30 million Americans are going to be helped. Rates are going to come down. Yep. Competition's going to get better. Delivery service is going to get better, too. And that's another thing the conservatives won't tell you. Do you think doctors want to give bad care? No. Just like teachers don't want to do bad jobs in the classroom. Well, the exceptionalism of this is that we as a country and a people have voted. We have decided to do something about the health inequality in this country, and I think it's a great step forward.
And you know, Ed, I was listening to you yesterday on your broadcast, and you were talking about the absence of morality. You were talking about the rank hypocrisy of people who parade their so-called religious convictions when it suits them, but when it comes to caring for people who don't have any health care, or, for example, those on food stamps, they think nothing of simply removing $40 billion over the next 10 years, yet most of these households include a child, an elderly person, or a disabled person.
Well, they have just passed a farm bill that affects 170,000 veterans, and they run around the country wrapping themselves in the flag saying that they support the troops. That's another one of their lies. Bottom line here, they are attacking the poor. That's what they are doing. They are manufacturing a falsehood.
No, Ed, that's not what they say, Ed. What they say is they are addressing fraud. They say the only reason they decided to cut the food stamps program by 5% is because they believe at least 10% is fraudulent.
Well, it's not, and they haven't been able to prove that, just like they weren't able to prove voter fraud. Now they're saying it's food stamp fraud. It's simply not there. What the Republicans have done is they've told single moms in this country with kids that if you make $6.73 an hour, you make too much, and that you're a freeloader and you're not working hard enough. And what they're doing is the same thing they're doing in education as they're picking and choosing neighborhoods. They are now picking and choosing families as to who's going to eat and what kids are going to go to school with the proper nourishment so they can learn properly. The bottom line here is we are really on the fast track to two Americas.
Okay, well, Ed,
it is unbelievable.
Ed, I want to go back to President Clinton with David Letterman last night. Take a listen to this.
If she is running, to your knowledge, blink twice.
I blinked once.
Ed, I believe that Mrs. Hillary Clinton is about to take the stage at the Clinton Global Initiative. There she is. So we're going to go live there for a moment. And of course...
Thank you, Martin.
And of course, Ed, our viewers will be able to join you immediately at 5.